Good morning. So today we're going to go into another area talking more about more tax planning that we can do outside of business structuring. And so we already talked about the foundation of any structure is the use of a trust and the documents that go along with the trust. Power of attorney for assets, advanced healthcare directive, pour over will. And so we're going to talk today about the type of trust we can use that will actually help us do some additional tax planning. Now, at the moment, there's a rule that came about in 2017 that said there's no estate tax or death tax for Californians anyway. I know there are some states out there that have their own death tax rules, but in California, there's no death tax or federal death tax if you have less than $11.5 million. And it's gone up to 11.7 because it had a graduated increase over the years. And so the deal is at the moment, for most of us that don't have, talking about federal tax only, there's no estate tax at all if you have less than $11.7 million. So most of us will use a standard couples trust, living trust, to take care of things because we don't have to do any special type of tax planning. They're not going to take any death taxes anyway, and estate taxes is what they call it, and so we don't have to worry about it. However, what if we do have more than $11.7 million? And at this point, I can let you know there's something we can do, but there's something else you need to consider. In California, we don't have, as I mentioned, any kind of death or estate tax for California tax. However, I have heard that if the federal government gets rid of estate tax, does away with it like they did back in 2010, okay? If they get rid of all estate tax, California is going to start their own estate tax, and it could be on everything over $2 million or $5 million. They hasn't come out yet, but the fact is it's going to be a much lower amount that we can keep without taxes, and the tax will be, from what I hear, 40%. So that's something you got to think about if you're in California. If they get rid of that tax, then we need to go ahead and realize we need to protect ourselves from what the state of California is going to do. Now, there are others out there of you that have state taxes that are estate taxes, and you've got to make sure that you protect yourself from that. So this is something that would help you in this case. So what we do is when we create that trust, we create what we call an A-B trust, okay? Or what some people call an exemption trust. And the exemption trust basically says this: we're going to create this trust. It's going to be for husband and wife. You get to use everything the way you want to during your lifetime. However, when one of you passes away, then we're going to take that trust and divide it into two new trusts. One is called an A trust. One is called the B trust. And the way I remember which is which, the A is for the above ground spouse, B is for the below ground spouse. So you kind of remember who owns which trust. So we're going to take all of the surviving spouse's assets, their separate property, as well as all of their share of the community property, put it into the A trust. Then we're going to take all the deceased spouse's assets, their separate property, and their share of the community property, and put it into the B trust, okay? So now we have these two trusts. The A trust, because it belongs to the survivor, continues to be amendable, changeable. You can revoke it. You can do anything you want with this. You can give it away, throw it away, burn it, whatever you want to do. But on the B trust, which has now become irrevocable, that this has some limitations on what it can be used for. So generally, the IRS gave us some standards that we can use for these that make sure that they are different enough. They're not seen as the same trust. So for the A trust, they can be used for your health, education, support, comfort, welfare, and happiness. We like happiness. That means you can do whatever you want with it. On the B trust, however, different standard. We can use that trust for the survivor's needs for their health, education, support, to maintain their accustomed manner of living. No happiness. And so the deal is that it's required by the IRS that we have to have standards that are different from each other to make this work. We want you to be able to use your own trust any way you want. but we have to put limitations on what we can do with this B trust. But now we have these two trusts. And the surviving spouse, once again, can use their own trust any way they want. They can go cruises around the world. They can buy a Ferrari. They can do anything that they want. But on the B trust, they can use that also, and we can actually adjust how this can be used, but generally speaking, we can use that for the survivor for the normal things that they've been paying for before. So we can pay the mortgage on the house. We can go ahead and pay for medical needs. We can pay for the car insurance, all the normal things. Going on a cruise around the world? Probably not, unless you've been doing that every day and that's part of your accustomed manner of living, which is not in most of our cases. So the deal is there's a limitation on what we do with this B trust. It makes sure that these two trusts are seen as two separate, smaller estates instead of one big estate. And so the AB trust, by having the AB trust splitting it this way, it gives us the ability to take advantage of that $11.7 million for one spouse and take advantage of another $11.7 million exemption for the deceased spouse. So each spouse gets $11.7 million exemption. So that way we doubled it almost to what? 22, 23, 24, $25,000 almost, okay? $25 million, I mean. And so the deal is that it encourages us and gives us the ability to be able to do things without having to worry about that 40% tax on it. Now, so that's one way we work with being able to reduce the amount of tax you're going to have to pay from your estate. Now, I will tell you this, we use the AB trust in another way also. And this is, we call it for AB trust for family reasons. And the AB trust for family reasons is where we have dad who was married before and has 3 kids, and now we have mom who was married before and has 3 kids, and they get married, so now they have 6 kids together, but we want to make sure that if dad dies, mom's kids don't get all the money. And if mom dies, dad's kids don't get all the money. And so the deal is that we do this split between the A and the B trust so that the spouse is still supported, but they can't change who the beneficiaries of that trust are going to be. And so the deceased spouse's trust, the B trust, becomes irrevocable. So although it can be used by the surviving spouse, they can't give it to their kids or give it to their new wife or to give it to the new pastor on TV. So the deal is that we've being able to control it a little bit to make sure that we're taken care of. Now, what if that surviving spouse needs to use it all just for their own need? They get to do it. That's what it's there for. The money is there to take care of spouses first. But it's not for the surviving spouse to be able to change who's going to be getting things in the end. So we use it for tax benefits. We use it for family benefits to make sure that things work the way that things should when you're gone. So that's kind of an exciting thing that we're able to do. We don't use as many of these because you have to have a larger estate or a split family to be able to really need this. But it's still a very valuable tool as we're going along and making sure that things are going to go the way you want them to go instead of the way the state of California wants them to go. So next time we're going to add something a little bit more to that to show you what happens in case there's a non-citizen spouse.